right, let's stay with the subject and speak to political analyst Professor Bheki Mngomezulu. Prof, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. How do you react first to the breaking news at this hour that the president is taking this on review? We have been hearing murmurs of it, but now we have confirmation. Are you surprised?
No, there is nothing surprising there. In fact, the only thing that I'm worried about is the fact that when former President Jacob Zuma used to take issues to court, he will be accused of delaying the process. When Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane did the same thing, then she was accused of delaying the process. Are we going to get the same narrative now that the president is taking the Section 89 panel report on review? I'll be watching with a keen interest to see if there is any consistency in that regard.
And what do you make, staying with that, what do you make of what we've been hearing since this particular matter broke? We heard from some of the party officials saying that he mustn't step down because he is allowing thugs to then come in and take over, while others were saying that no, the president in fact must resign because these allegations are serious. And what the report says, as much as it's not saying he has, committed these crimes, it says he may have violated the Constitution. Others saying that that is very serious. What did you make of those growing calls in both sectors last week?
No, there are a couple of issues to take note of. One is this English word which they call diction. That is the choice and usage of words. I'm about to go back and then try to see if I can educate myself about the meaning of the word allegation. Because this word has gained prominence recently, whereby people are saying that what other phrases said are in fact allegations. And I had a number of my colleagues making the same statements, basically joining the bandwagon saying that these are allegations. Now, the questions I was asking myself included the following. Was there any burglary at Phala Phala? The answer is an emphatic yes. And the president has not denied that. Can that be an allegation? Definitely no. Was there money taken from Phala Phala? The answer is an emphatic yes. And was the money in South African rands or in US dollars? The money was in US dollars. And the president has not refuted that. So are these allegations? So that is why I'm saying that I'm yet to go back and try to educate myself about the definition of the word allegation. Once I know what the new definition is, then I'll be in a position to argue. But then to come back to your two sides of the story, those who are saying the president must resign, they are not necessarily saying that there is nothing that the president can do to defend himself. It is within his right to do so. The only problem is that the president has been said, as I was saying, that whenever you do this, we are then accused of delaying the process. That is one thing. But the other thing is that when the president ascended to power, he basically set the bar too high for himself when he indicated that he was coming with a new dawn. And then he indicated that he was going to revive the party, he was going to fight corruption, he was going to deal with the so-called 9 lost years under former President Zuma. So expectations were high. So when this Phala Phala matter emerged, then people said, but then, Mr. President, are you walking the talk or are you just saying something else? Because they expected him to be clean, so to speak. And in this case, he was found wanting, hence the call for him to resign. But from a legal point of view, the president is right, and those who are defending him are right in saying that allow the process to unfold and take it from there. But lastly, if I were to advise the president, and of course those who are in the president's corner, the NEC and the NWC, I would have said, accept this Section 89 report and then activate the Section 89 clause so that when you go to Parliament, you then mobilize and say, okay, here is a report. There are loopholes in the report. Here are the loopholes. And then you argue the matter when Section 89 has been activated. To try and block it now raises a lot of questions for me. I would have expected that they would say, okay, fine, let's take it to Section 89. Let Section 89 be activated, and then we'll argue it when the debate takes place in Parliament. Doing it now, for me, doesn't make sense, honestly.
And Prof, we've seen the ANC finding itself in a position like this one before. a couple of times before. But when we look at the issues of succession, whether or not the current president does in fact maybe end up going, as some of his detractors are calling for him to do so, do you think this is a political party that has systems in place to manage the transition should things get to that point?
In the past, the ANC has managed transitions. Whether they are ready now, I'm not too sure. But in the past, they have managed transitions in the sense that starting with Mandela, in fact, literally ran this country for about 3 years. After that, he allowed Mbeki to do most of the work. So the transition from Mandela to Mbeki was a smooth one. With Thabo Mbeki to his successor, it wasn't smooth because, as we all know, he didn't finish his second term. In September 2008, he was forced by his own organization to resign. At which point then Kgalema Motlanthe was asked to finish his term. And then, of course, Motlanthe was never going to be a permanent president, so to speak, but then was just an interim president to finish Mbeki's term. Then when Zuma came in, he basically won the election and then he became the new president, and then he took over. He ran the country for 5 years. During his second term, he was forced to resign. So there was no smooth transition there too, because he left before the right time. Now, something very strange happened. As opposed to appointing one to be the one to finish President Zuma's term, President Ramaphosa was the deputy, immediately took over to finish Zuma's term, and then in 2019 assumed the position of being president for on a full-time basis. So the transition then, of course, has not been stable or has not been consistent given the context I'm just outlining. So whether now we're going to see something worse than what we've seen, I'm not too sure. Because if, for example, the president, hypothetically speaking, if he were to be forced to resign like his two predecessors, then it would mean that he will be the first president to be forced to resign during his first term. That will be something unprecedented. But seemingly then there is enough to support him this time around, and then hopefully he will survive tomorrow, and then he will survive the December conference. But the main question is, will the ANC survive 2024 election? That is a question that we should be focusing on.
And of course, a very big question there, Prof, as we end off. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Do appreciate it. That is Political Analyst, Professor Bheki Mngomezulu.